Most new cars promise more power, more tech, and more efficiency, but this one shows up with something no one saw coming. From its wild design choices to a feature that instantly changes how you think a daily driver should feel, this new model doesn't just join the segment, it disrupts it. But is this breakthrough genuinely useful, or just clever marketing wrapped in shiny metal? By the end of this review, you'll know exactly where it stands, and whether it deserves a spot in your driveway. The car we're looking at today comes from a brand that's been steadily pushing its way up the ranks, moving from good enough to genuinely competitive in almost every segment. This latest model is their next big step, aimed directly at drivers who want something that feels modern, confident, and just a little bit bold. It enters a crowded market, but one where small differences can make a huge impact. And with the updates they've packed into this release, the question becomes, did they bring something truly new to the table, or just enough to keep up? We'll get to that soon, but first, let's understand what this vehicle is meant to be. Now that we've set the stage, let's start peeling back what this car really brings to the table, because the moment you get up close, it becomes clear that this isn't just another predictable release. The design alone gives away a lot about its intentions. You get sharper character lines, more intentional sculpting along the sides, and a front fascia that looks like it's genuinely trying to say something. The lighting signatures, especially the daytime running lights, give it that premium, slightly aggressive personality that modern buyers expect. It's the kind of design that doesn't scream for attention, but definitely rewards a second look. Step inside, and the tone shifts. The cabin feels more deliberate than the previous generation, or its closest rivals, thanks to cleaner dashboards, larger screens, and a layout that finally seems designed around how people actually use a car. Whether it's the soft touch panels or the new stitching pattern across the seats, everything feels more thought out. The infotainment system responds quickly, the menus make sense, and thankfully, the brand kept physical controls for the features you actually need while driving. It's a practical space, but one that doesn't feel barebones. Performance-wise, the story gets more interesting. Under the hood, you get a powertrain that delivers noticeably stronger low-end pull than you'd expect, making city driving feel lighter and more responsive. Out on the highway, the engine settles into a smoother rhythm, and the transmission, whether automatic or dual clutch, makes shifts that feel more confident than the outgoing model. If this is a comparison video, the difference becomes even more obvious. One car prioritizes comfort and predictability, while the other feels a bit more eager, as if it wants to be pushed. Handling is where things start to separate. The steering, while not sport car precise, offers a good amount of weight and feedback, making cornering feel controlled without sacrificing everyday comfort. The suspension has been tuned to strike that middle ground between firmness and ride quality, a balance not every rival gets right. On rougher roads, you do feel some bumps, but nothing that takes away from the overall refinement. If you're comparing two models, this is where most buyers will notice which one truly suits their driving style. Tech and safety features add another layer to the rising action. You get upgraded driver assistance systems that are more refined and less intrusive than before, plus a suite of connectivity perks, wireless phone integration, better cameras, and in some cases, a 360-degree view that's actually clear enough to use in tight spaces. These aren't headline-grabbing features, but in real life, they're the ones that make the biggest difference day to day. And yet, for all its strengths, there are still a few interesting weaknesses that might make you pause. Maybe the rear seats aren't as spacious as the exterior suggests. Maybe the fuel economy numbers look great on paper but fluctuate in real driving. Or maybe the rival model offers one feature that completely changes the buying equation. But before we get to that, and before we break down the pricing and real-world value, you'll want to see how these strengths and weaknesses stack up when we compare trims, options, and long-term ownership. Because the biggest surprise is still coming. And this is where everything comes to a head. Because once you take this car out of the spec sheets, out of the design studio, and onto an actual road, the truth becomes impossible to ignore. The moment you push the throttle past halfway, the car answers with a surge that feels sharper than the numbers hinted. The steering tightens, the suspension settles, and suddenly you're not just driving, you're being invited to see what the engineers really meant this car to be. If this is a comparison, the split becomes even more dramatic. One car delivers power with a clean, almost polished confidence. The other hits you with a burst of raw energy that feels less refined but far more thrilling. It's that moment, right there, where expectations either rise or collapse. Because while one model may have dominated on paper, the real-world test exposes the gap between advertised performance and true capability. In corners, you start to feel the personality differences. One stays planted and predictable, the other dances just a bit, letting you sense the road in a way that's either exhilarating or nerve-wracking depending on what kind of driver you are. Braking distances, cabin quietness, even how the car handles sudden lane changes, this is the part of the story you can't fake, and the part most buyers never get to experience until it's too late. So here it is, the turning point. The moment when the car you expected to win begins to show cracks, or the underdog suddenly proves it came to compete. That unexpected steering response, that surprising mid-range pull, that one feature that changes the entire value calculation, you feel it clearly now. But before we call a winner, before we talk about pricing or long-term ownership, there's one more piece you need to hear. Because the result you're expecting may not be the one you're about to get. So after everything we've seen, design, performance, real-world behavior, and the unexpected surprises, what's the final verdict? This car delivers a balanced mix of confidence, capability, and value that genuinely stands out in today's crowded market. Its biggest strengths are clear: a more refined ride than previous generations, a cabin that finally feels premium where it counts, and enough performance to keep everyday driving fun without punishing your comfort. If you're the type of buyer who wants something modern, stylish, and well-rounded, this model fits that role almost perfectly. But it's not flawless. Rear seat space or cargo room may still lag behind some rivals. Fuel economy might not meet the most optimistic expectations. And depending on the trim, pricing could push certain buyers toward alternatives offering slightly more tech or slightly better performance. That's why this car is best suited for shoppers who value balance over extremes, drivers who want a little bit of personality without sacrificing practicality. If this was a comparison, the distinction becomes even clearer. One car is ideal for buyers prioritizing comfort, ease of use, and long-term ownership confidence. The other leans toward people who want sharper handling, bolder styling, or a more exciting daily drive. Neither choice is wrong, it simply depends on the kind of driver you are and what you expect from your next vehicle. In the broader US market, this launch lands at a critical moment. Buyers now expect smart technology, efficient powertrains, and strong safety features, without paying luxury brand prices. And this model, whether it's the standout or the challenger, signals where the segment is heading, toward cars that feel more premium, more connected, and more expressive than ever before. If competitors don't keep up, the next few years could look very different. So now the real question is, does this car earn a spot on your shortlist, or even in your driveway? Let me know in the